One of the things that comes from Tolkien are challenges, and one of the challenges of Lord of the Rings is the thousands of horses that we had on screen.
When you read The Lord of the Rings, you know these horses are also characters in these films, and they're not just sort of props, if you will. Anything from small moments to incredible large charges, horsework is found throughout the trilogy and is a major part of the making of these films.
Shadowfax is the lord of all horses and has been my friend through many dangers.
We had two Shadowfax horses, two white stallions. One was called Blanco, another called Domiro.
Domiro was the principal Shadowfax and a diva.
That's how he lets you know he's a stallion.
Domiro looked magnificent and seemed to know he did, and was trained to getting exactly in the right position and to holding it.
Get over. Get over. Whoa. If I want him to stand somewhere, I put him on a mark. That way I can walk off and leave him on his mark. Mark. Whoa. Mark. Whoa. Boy.
And when he did it magnificently, and when he didn't do it, he had to be sent back to the stables, and Blanco,
Boy.
who'd been watching every move of Domiro, stepped in and without any problem at all did it.
Okay, get on your mark. Get on it. Get on it. Get on it. It's quite a unique thing for a horse to be able to run to a mark because it's only a small object out in the paddock, and a lot of people just wouldn't think a horse would have the intelligence to do it, but it's quite amazing how easily they pick it up and how well they learn it.
Beautiful stuff. I don't think there was anyone in New Zealand who could have got the horses to do that. We were lucky we had Don Reynolds and Graham Ware, who's a very, very good horse trainer.
It's called liberty training. Basically because the horse is at liberty, he's free from restraints. Dig it. Atta boy, good boy, get up here. Whips are used purposely as a direction. They're not used in the true sense of whips. We use one as a guide pretty well to point the direction we want to go, and one as impulsion, which is just to give the horse a little bit of impulsion as far as just giving him that forward driving motion. Change it, Blanco. Change, change. Good boy, good. Blanco, he's a white Andalusian, enjoys his work and does it fairly well. Up high, up high, up high, up high. Good boy, come up here. Good boy.
And they trained Shadowfax in the technique of liberty riding. And then we needed a rider that was really good. And we had this great rider from New Zealand, Basil Clapham, who looked enough like Gandalf to double the inn.
Do beware that you're not meant to have any stirrups or bridle or saddle, and but boy, can he ride a horse.
He was doing stuff that I would never do. He was riding a horse with no saddle, no bridle, with a wire that came around its neck that you couldn't see that he would hold on to.
It's my lifeline.
That's the speed control, but sometimes it don't work.
No, sometimes it definitely don't work. As you could well find out in the next shot.
Basil had the hardest job of anybody in terms of horse work in this movie. I have a picture of him sitting in the lunch tent, looking so sad and so tired and so red-eyed. And people just see the movie and just say, wow, Gandalf, awesome, you know, but they don't realize what goes into something like that.
We've just passed into the realm of Gondor!
Preparing for all the battle scenes and everything was quite intense with the horse training.
We get a horse on a film, we go through a desensitising period, which is exposing the horse to all the different things that happen to him around a film set, and which is not so much everyday life.
Well, we're using like blue tarps as like desensitizers and bags hanging down so that the horses just get used to the madness that happens on set.
Some of the horses were quite raw, shall we say. They weren't experienced in the things that they needed to be for the work that was going to be asked of them.
Originally, there was a horse being trained up for Aragorn, and basically, they would try to do these training sessions where he'd get down completely on his belly so that Aragorn could sort of get on top of him, and then he'd rise up, and they start off training with a dummy for that.
Hopefully he won't lie on top of him on the day.
We had to get rid of that horse for that specific role, and Uraeus was brought in and trained up and learned things very quickly.
He was a last-minute replacement, just like I had been, So a day or two before, I'm suddenly introduced to this new horse who's never been on a movie set. He's very physically strong and strong-minded as well. And he did kind of freak out the first day, It was very difficult for him. We got the shots, but I don't think he was very happy, and I felt bad about it, for him,
Reminds you how solid the horses had to be for battle, And he's going very well, very well.
About the second time we had to do something on film, he was really looking for the camera, it seemed like, and showing off and rearing and doing things, but in a more controlled way, which was great, but kind of surprised from not liking it at all the first time. The second time he couldn't get enough of it, and hated having any other horse between him and the camera.
A funny thing, I actually wanted to get a camera and shoot a documentary of the horses and ask them what they thought about being on the film.
I still think he likes the Kit Kats best, but he'll settle for Toffee Pops.
It was kind of tricky not to treat these horses as being special and these ones not, because there were definite personalities. There was Florian, he was the white stallion, and he had a brood of black geldings. They were his brood, and whenever he was around them, he became incredibly, this is my brood, these are my people, don't mess with them.
He is special, and he knows he's special, he's just, personality plus. Because he's a stallion as well, he's got a huge amount of presence, and I was just like, oh, look at that.
The stallions we had to keep separate anyway because they hated each other.
There was one day that Uraeus was really going crazy, and, he ruined several takes, and then between takes I had to separate him. And it turned out there was a mare in season that he was trying to get to, but it's not just a question of wanting the girl, it's wanting to kill all the guys before getting to her. So we didn't know what was going on, and then they finally figured that out.
Cut. You're going to have to do that in coverage, Pete. The end.
You can't threaten them, you can't sort of plead with them. You can't start crying and hope that they feel some sympathy towards you. Can't do anything that they normally do with actors.
With the actors, when it comes to horses, you've got guys like Viggo, who is a very capable horse person.
Viggo put in so much effort to work with the horses, and he would come out earlier than what he was required. He'd come out, he'd go out and catch his own horse, bring it in and groom it, saddle it up, and we'd go for a ride.
I've made a lot of friends in New Zealand, but I would say he's, without question, my best friend in New Zealand is this guy.
Uraeus was a horse that Viggo spent a lot of time with because he wanted the bond between him and Brago to be something that you were able to sense on screen, and so the only way to really do that was for him to bond with the horse in real life. And I know that Viggo occasionally would go to the stables and actually sleep with the horse. I mean, Viggo's pretty amazing like that. He could have been in a hotel, but he wanted this to be a very real relationship.
Well, I was near the horses, but I didn't sleep with the horse, despite, rumors to the contrary. Which I have a feeling that Dominic had his hand in spreading some of those.
He put a lot of time in when we trained Brago to lay down and push for the two towers when Brago rescues Aragorn from the riverbank.
I'll get over, you can roll me a little ways if you want.
Okay.
Even if he's trained to do that, he'll do one if we want, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, yep. Okay. Head down, push. Head down, push, pushing, 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 push, 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 push. Atta boy,
That's a good boy.
Good.
Good boy.
He's very confident around them, very relaxed around them, so they respond really well to him. When he's on a horse, he just looks like he should be there, which is, I think it's really special. Not many people have that.
Keep going, keep going.
Those who had to do a lot of riding on camera, Carl Urban as Eomer and Bernard Hill as Theoden, Orlando Bloom as Legolas. We were able to do our own work because we worked hard at it.
I came out 5 months before we started filming, and I was training like mad to do the horse riding and stuff, and I don't know, it's all come together here, which is amazing because we're in the horseman's country, you know. Getting really connected to the horse as well. I'm riding a guy called Percy, but it's nice that we've got a real connection now, and I feel like I can really ride him well because the elves are renowned for being, you know, excellent horsemen. He's one of the best horses on set. He's certainly the boy. He's a great ride. Couldn't do it without these animals.
I think all the actors coped very well with the horses.
It was good. I mean, I haven't really got any notes. I think it's you just working your way into it and then just do a couple more takes. It's getting good. Yep.
It was kind of challenging, you know, because I hadn't done much horse riding before, but I sort of really have grown to love them. Those are beautiful animals. I really do love them, and you have to bond with each different animal because sometimes you'll get a different horse, and it's like being back at square one again. You know, they can be quite temperamental if they're having a bad day and they're getting their hooves and they're stamping them in the water, and you know. So, but no, I'm really enjoying working with them. They're fantastic.
You know, we all got a lot of help. I mean, the horse department was very loyal, affectionate, and extremely helpful to the actors.
Too long?
No, they're about right.
Are they?
We're disturbingly familiar. Have the same kind of same measurements and everything.
Bernard came up for a lot of lessons, mainly because he enjoyed it, not especially because he needed extra lessons, but he threw his heart into it.
We put him on a horse called Hercules, which was a big grey Percheron cross horse. But the horse had a really good temperament.
You can't just take a horse out of a stable first thing in the morning, throw a saddle on it, and then get on and expect it to go galloping down the field. It just won't do it. So our social hours with the horses were as much to do with our appreciation of them rather than anything else, you know. Used to just love being with the horses.
Spreading in fours, left, right. Where you going, Graham? Go wide.
Bernard and Miranda are really good considering the amount of riding that they do and the amount of time that they get to spend riding. It's good that they are motivated to come and ride with us, spend time, and they have a genuine interest in the horses and they like doing it.
Go, 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 go. You're going to run out.
My horse was Dublin.
On them, they know what the actor's like as a rider. You know, when the actor says, giddy up, or whatever they say to get the horse going, the horse knows whether he means it or not, you know.
I could sit on this horse and give him, like, you know, gentle kicks and be like, "Hah! Hah!" And this horse would just be...
If you've got actors that don't actually control the horses all that well, they'll just take off when they hear action. So you get to where you can't say action. You can't even say camera rolling because the horses know that means something's going to happen, you know.
So they get to the point where Dave Norris would say, and Christmas trees, or, you know, they'd come up with all these funny little words that would be my cue, just to trick the horse so he wouldn't get too hyperactive and, you know, shoot off before the gun kind of thing.
I'm not going to give an action call when we shoot this because Basil's on this lovely horse, Blanco, and we don't want to spook him.
I know Bernard felt that the word action was just a curse, you know, for his horse. Every time they'd say it, he'd go berserk, you know.
He's very self-willed. He now knows that when it's winding up for action and stand by, and he's up and jumping around.
There was one day, I don't know if David Wenham remembers this, but we had him on a horse for this big charge going towards Gilead.
David wasn't a great rider. He's a great guy. And his horse took off on him.
Jeff was filming and I was on my horse and he called action and I was pretty much out of the frame by the time the N on action had completed being called.
And his horse just bolted.
He just disappeared. He finished up 100 yards ahead of the rest.
And there was David sitting there going, what do I do? You know, I can't stop it. I can't slow the horse down.
Actually, the funniest thing, though, is that you'd want a shot, say, of David Wenham in foreground, big close-up, with the whole host galloping behind him. Well, you can't get that with him on a horse. So what we had was a 44-gallon drum bolted to the side of the car, with a saddle on it and a bit of mane and stuff like that. And the actor would sit on this 44-gallon drum, pretending to ride a horse.
The best direction that they can give people is, and I suppose we'll be cutting here, is make out as though you're actually having sex on the barrel.
No, I'd say to David Wenham, "Fuck this horse, will you?" You know?
The rushes of my particular bit on the barrel actually did look as though I was doing something to the barrel as opposed to riding the horse.
Riding the barrel can tend to look like other activities. You have to be careful how you ride the barrel or people will watch and laugh, basically. It does look silly.
And they had one on wheels too that they could push across the set. It was like such a hoot watching it, this stuff being filmed.
You know, it makes you feel kind of foolish. You know, you're not delving into Shakespeare at this point.
Let's be serious. Is this serious? This is making a movie here. 3, 2, 1, action. Put yourself back camera. I think he's broke a leg.
By the time we got to pickups for film 3, Richard Taylor and Steve Ingram collaborated on building a really sophisticated computer-controlled horse rig.
So it's just been christened by Jamie here the Phony Pony. So that's its name on set to differentiate it from the barrel rig horse. Fantastic.
Its eyes can move, its mouth can move, its ears can move. The whole of its body can move. It would gallop.
That was the Mercedes of fake riding.
Okay, put it on full.
Okay, the bucking Bronto. Woo!
Yeah, Pete, it's another $1. We'll get another 2 minutes.
Today we're shooting a scene for the third movie. It's the charge of the Rohirrim in Pillanor Fields outside of Minas Tirith. It's one of the big spectacular scenes from the whole trilogy, really. And it's a day that I think a lot of us have been looking forward to for a long time. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago that Richard Taylor and I were talking about how many Rohan costumes he should build, and I said, well, let's make 250 because I'd love to get 250 riders on horses.
We had about 50 company horses, of which I think we used about 30 in the Pillanor Fields, so we needed something like 220 extras on horseback.
New Zealand is a country of about 4 million people and 40 million sheep. And that means if you're filming in a rural area, you have to count on the fact that during the sheep shearing season, you had to cast a wider net.
You'd be shooting in lambing season and nobody would turn up because because the farmers, you know, as much as they might want to be in the movie for the day, have to go and deal with the lambs. You know, the real world kept tripping us up.
So we turned to a guy named Steve Auld and found all of our horses across New Zealand.
I'd just do a press release and call in people with horses of a certain height, and we'd just get them in and have a look.
And I remember when they put out a call for all able-bodied horse riders to, you know, partake in the charge of Pillanor Fields. It was like this Woodstockian trek, you know, horse riders from all over the country were coming down, you know, congregating on this one field outside of Twizel, whether they could ride or not, you know. Everyone just really wanted to be a part of it.
So the variety of riders and horses was just amazing. But I think that would be how it would be in Middle Earth too, you know, it'd be every man and his horse coming to battle.
It wasn't easy. You know, looking back, I had a couple of Canadian guys who have been in the game for a long time, John Scott, Lyle Edge, they joined me at Twizel.
It's probably one of the bigger days in the picture as far as the horses and the wardrobe and the people are concerned. We've got pretty close to 250 riders here, and getting them all to work together. Columns of 2, columns of 4s, lineups of 50, and proceed like warriors.
Steve, send me one with armor. I need one Royal Guard here, please.
A lot of these people, and it's all credit to them that they hung in there, had never been on a film set before. They had no idea what they were in for. It became cold, it became very, very long days.
Some people would come, and after about 2 or 3 days, they'd go, this is too much like hard work, and they'd clear out.
They would just say, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't what I signed up for.
So I think after the first week, we were down to about 150 extras. And they were the ones who really dug it in, and that good old Kiwi spirit came out, and they were there for the duration, and they were going to make it work. They were going to make it happen.
People stay in their trucks and floats because there isn't accommodation, and also it's good to have people close to their horses in case anything happens.
You've got a perfectly good float there, so you might as well sleep in that. So, I mean, that's not a bit of flat ground and everybody's happy.
My name is Zoe Miller. I'm from Dunedin. This is Herman. And together we travel in this truck here, and it's sort of become home. I've got things thrown here, there and everywhere, all over the place. But basically we just camp out in vehicles like these and have a few drinks in the evening. Meals are all provided, which are fantastic. And basically it's just a bit of a social time.
He threw the food before I put it in his mouth.
Doesn't like it.
Oh, no. You see?
The commitment level of a race.
Oh, mate, he's got the right idea.
Yeah, definitely having fun. Yeah, always having fun.
So apart from the hardship, there was a lot of fun and camaraderie as well.
Ironically, the thing that almost brought it to a halt was the humble rabbit.
One of the most dangerous things for horses are actually rabbit holes.
If a horse steps in a rabbit hole, it can break its leg and throw the rider and all that. So there'd be people going across the land where we were going to have them galloping, prodding the ground to make sure there wasn't a rabbit hole just below the surface because the horse would break through.
We also would, of course, before every charge, the individual riders would go out on their horses, all 300 of them, and walk their horses through the field.
You just watch all these horses gallop and you go, yeah, that looks great, but the work to do to get it like that was incredible.
We did some huge gallop throughs with lots of stunt players on the ground.
I think there was like 250 horses just barreling through, and we had big safety lanes for guys. I mean, they weren't that big, but the horses were good enough that they ran down it.
The horses rode into them like that, you know, and the guys at the front would hurl themselves backwards, and the illusion's very strong that they'd been hit, you know.
It was actually, there was a few close calls, but everyone came through unscathed. It's to be expected with horses. Never a dull moment when they're charging at you.
When you're doing a bit of a charge scene or something, you just hang on like Grimm's death, because if you're in the front, you don't want to fall off, because you think about the other 250 riders are going to run over top of you.
One charge we did across the plains, one of the leading guys fell off his horse.
His saddle slipped right down underneath the horse, and he actually came off with horses, 200 horses coming behind him, and they managed to step around him.
All the horses behind just swerved, one or two jumped over top of him.
I was convinced he would have to die, you know. And then they all galloped past, and at the end he stands up and he was completely unscathed.
Fortunately, we had no real horse collisions, nobody got hurt.
We'll go to enormous efforts to make a film good, but you don't want to hurt people. You know what I mean?
We got to have the three guys in front, and Bernard's got to ride in front of them again. Are we sure that there's enough room up there for Bernard to do that? I mean, it looks good where they are. Bernard had come up with this idea of a sort of a ritualistic warrior kind of thing that the king would do with his frontline troops, which was riding along the front row, holding out his sword as they put their spears down and sort of rattling the sword along the shafts of the spears and creating this sound.
I don't know, I thought, would it be great for the final kind of rousing battle thing for Pelennor Fields, you know? You can kind of just, if I could ride down the line of spears and all that kind of stuff. So I then began to sell it to Pete, and he bought it, so I had to learn how to ride to make it look good.
Ride now! Ride for ruin! On the world's ending!
250 riders, you know, a lot of whom I knew. So I wasn't going to make a fool of myself. So that kind of spurred me on, really.
He actually generated enough enthusiasm and enough power that we really thought we were doing it. And when he said charge and we're calling death, 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 it was deafening.
It
was not hard to get caught up in the moment, you know, to have that many horse riders all built up in their armor, and Theoden, you know, egging them on to basically fight to the last man.
It was like this overwhelming kind of surge of energy, and then hammer went down and we were allowed to gallop these horses as fast as we possibly could, swinging our weapons. It doesn't get any better than that.
200-odd horses just charging down this plain. It was spectacular.
Literally, they would be halfway down and the ground was shaking.
Those moments were phenomenal. I mean, the ride at the Rohirrim, in terms of film job experience, it's number one, without a doubt. And it'll take a long time to knock it off the top.
It's really hard when you go on a film and you purchase a horse and then train it and turn it from an average horse into something that's, you know, a highly trained film horse that's done a great job, and then at the end of the film have to walk away from it, you know, because you'll walk away with that sense that you may never see that horse again. When it came to the end of Pickup Shots 2003, and for the first time all these horses that the company had, I think it was about 8 of them, carried all the way through from right start to finish. They were all going to be sold. And the company offered them to all the riders first.
I actually bought one of the horses from the shoot because I fell in love with him. He kept me safe, I kept him safe. This is my horse Seb. He was on the film for 3 years, from the time he was 3 to the time he was 6. He's one of the Rohan horses. And Gondorian and whatever else. You come up and say hi to the camera. No,
He very much fell in love with Uraeus, and so he ended up buying him. And he loves a scratch just here. And I'm just looking after him for Vigo until he goes back to America at some stage.
Jane's an ideal person to watch over him, and who knows him and who is trusted by him, you know.
Vigo's one of those people who is really down to earth, and I know that he was amazed at Jane's riding on Florian and Jane Abbott's riding. At the end of the shoot, I remember Jane saying one day, "Oh, I wish I could buy that horse, but he's an expensive horse, being a stallion." I said, "Look, I love this horse. I would so like to buy him at the end of filming. I didn't have any idea how on earth I was going to afford him, but I knew that my bid wouldn't get as far as Wellington." You know, the simple fact of the matter was there was someone else who wanted that horse, someone higher up in the department, and she didn't think she was going to be able to. And I mean, Vigo heard about this, and so he said, "Well, I'll bid on him for you." And then I've still got the message saved on my phone where he says, "Hey Jane, good news, I've got Florian, you know, you can go and pick him up at the end, you know. He's at the farm, you can go and pick him up." And it was just like, oh my God, and I rang him and I said, thank you, that's brilliant.